Welcome to the Brandtelling Podcast, where we go beyond basic branding with powerful stories as told by brand builders, owners, and founders. Now, here are your hosts, Chief Brand Teller Arthur Germain and the Brand Chef Asaf Bachman.
As the owner or founder of your brand, you're likely the person who knows the most about everything your brand has to offer your customers. You're the main technician, you're the main salesperson, you're the man.
Or woman, or person.
Okay, you're the person.
What happens when your business starts to grow, though?
Well, then you begin to hire a sales team and train them and hope they can do the same job as you.
But how will they know to sell like me without me being on every sales call? How do I ensure consistent sales process?
That's what we're going to discuss on today's episode. Welcome back to the Brandtelling Podcast. I'm Arthur Germain, and with me is my co-host, Asaf, the Brand Chef Bachman.
Thanks, Arthur. Today's guest is Kevin Barry, founder of Harbor Sales Management, where he specializes in exactly that. He's a fractional chief revenue officer who can whip your sales team into shape.
Kevin, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
So, full disclosure, Kevin is a client who Asaf and I worked with to develop a brand storybook, visual identity, and a website. We know that he has a strong brand, and we want to share his journey with everyone. So, Kevin, can you briefly describe the problem that you see most growing brands have when it comes to sales?
Sure. As you mentioned in your intro, Arthur, the best salesperson for a brand for a new business often is the owner, the person that developed the product, the person who had the vision for the product, the person who understands the value of the product, the person who feels the ultimate sense of responsibility for his brand succeeding. That's the one who can make a great salesperson. It doesn't scale though, right? So your business just starts to grow and all of a sudden, in addition to selling the product, you're doing everything else. So you're building your business, you're getting financing, you're putting in other systems, accounting systems, whatever.
Chief cook and bottle washer and sales guy.
And paradoxically, most often the best possible person to be that sales guy.
Right.
But again, it doesn't scale. So what happens is now you're growing your business, you're a victim of your own success, and yet you just can't get back to customers the way that you used to. So you bring on some sales staff, but you're not a sales manager. You weren't a sales person either, but you sold your product great because you understood your product.
Right.
But you really don't understand the sales management process because you've never done it before. But you begin to, maybe you have some people that are out on the floor and they're great with customers. And you say, that guy could make a great salesperson. I'm going to bring him on my staff and bring him on the sales staff or create a position for him. And then that person's going to, he understands the product, right, and he may be a great salesperson, or he may not be. So there's another person that you're going to bring her in, and she's great with customers too. And she's a little bit better at the management part, but maybe not. She's not a professional manager. So she's just doing it day by day, as you did it, day by day, using spreadsheets and pasting together what really aren't even processes and. Very
a lot
quickly.
Of kind of independent contributors, but not at the management level or the organization level.
There's just no thought that way, right? So it works. And as an owner, there's something wrong. It's not like this is a secret to you. You're like, I got to get my business together. I'm falling behind. My customers are unhappy because I don't get back to them the way that I used to, or as quickly as I did. And so it's important to at that point where when you feel like you really need the help to bring in some professional help.
Yeah.
And one of the challenges, though, is that if you're a small business, let's say you have 2 or 3 salespeople, let's say you have revenue of, I'll say, $750,000 to $5 million. Okay, mm-hmm. You actually can't afford the sales leadership that you need because if you have 2 sales reps, you're not going to spend several $100,000 a year on a sales manager to manage a revenue stream that's not that much bigger than that,
right.
And consequently you don't have access to the kind of expertise you need to put it together. So I'm a fractional sales leader, and I have the expertise, and I can offer it on a part-time basis. So you can have me long enough that I can get systems in place that I can help to coach your staff on an ongoing basis, and help them understand what's likely to happen in their personal sales process going forward.
That's interesting that you talk about it in a process way. Asaf and I often talk about one of the challenges with running a brand as it moves to marketing that brand is the lack of a process. The people jump to the tools. Asaf teases me about the bright and shiny object syndrome. Like, oh, Asaf, I found a new tool, and the businesses we work with are very similar. And but having a process, it's fine if you find the bright and shiny tool. Having a process to plug that in. How is it that you work with these sales organizations? Do you introduce the process and the tools, or do you use tools that they might have in place at that point?
Yeah. So you assess where they are at the time that they start, having an interest in working with our brand, with our company, and that is the way that I do it is to benchmark them against a set of maybe 30 best practices that exist with small and medium successful businesses. Like, do you have weekly sales meetings, and what are they like? That's that's entry level, right? Yeah. Do you have a CRM? Do you have a system that helps you keep track of where you are in terms of outreach with potential customers, and then the management and care and feeding of your existing customers, and then also that a good CRM will also feed into a projections pipeline of what to expect in terms of revenue. So for the growth of your business, you have predictable or relatively predictable idea of where your business is going to lie going forward. So finding where people are on there, and then piece by piece putting the pieces in place. Like if they don't have a CRM, or more often, if you have a CRM and it replaced the Rolodex.
Right. Literally,
that's all it does. It's a Rolodex, except it's on your computer instead of being an integrated tool into your systems that allow you to fully get the benefits of computerization. Yeah.
There's a lot of features in there. So as you see businesses growing their sales team, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see that happen pretty commonly?
One of the most important things is to coach salespeople on an ongoing basis, and to use management not as a babysitter, but as a way to get people to develop themselves.
Yeah.
So so it's not really understanding the proper role of coaching. Everything I'm talking about here, by the way, is not rocket science.
Right.
It's really straightforward. It's a matter of understanding what needs to be done, and then having the time to implement it, which that owner definitely does not have at this point, right? And the sales reps, or maybe the person that you hired from the sales floor that I mentioned before, maybe she's a great seller, but she's not a great manager, and so you just lost your best salesperson when you brought her on board, and you've hired a mediocre sales manager. The difficulty of doing that, of course, is you have people out of place and out of the roles that they need to play.
It's really interesting too, isn't it? Because if you think about what it is that most of the businesses actually deliver, most businesses are not in the business of delivering sales. So what they're delivering, maybe it's a technology. So I think I work a lot with like managed service providers, and their job is to maintain the technology that their clients are using, suggest new technology, help them with viruses, help them with a challenge. They do training of their technical staff. Their technical staff may go through some whole training program. They'll be sent out. A junior person will get sent out with a senior person. They'll work together until the junior person graduates and goes on. But they don't do it with the sales team. Sales team is like, okay, go sell.
Right. And nor do they teach the technical staff that part of their job is sales.
Is selling,
also,
exactly.
Because
right.
every job is a sales job.
That's right.
So you brought up two different things there, and you use them interchangeably, training. Actually, you didn't bring up coaching, so let me talk about coaching, because I think when you're talking about pouring knowledge into your technical staff, or frankly, doing a training with the sales staff and pouring knowledge into them, that's what training is. It's putting the best into people that you can, and there's a temporary boost with sales performance in that, most often worthwhile because of the boost that you see, and maybe a more permanent boost with training because it's more finite, it operates in a fixed space. But then there's coaching, and coaching is getting the most or the best out of someone. Mm-hmm. Right. And the way that you do that is you described how if a new sales rep is going to travel, or maybe a tech is going to travel with a sales rep, and they see how it's done and they start to think like a sales rep, and a good manager, if he's riding along with a sales rep, would before you go into that meeting, or perhaps you have a weekly meeting with your sales manager, before those meetings, where are you in the process with business A that our prospect? So the rep tells you, well, we've talked about features, we've talked about benefits, and now they're getting interested in feeling out how we'd work together. And I say, okay, so what do you expect to happen on this next call? Because there's only a finite number of things that can happen at that stage. Right. Over the course of your whole sales process, there's 50, 60 different things that can come up, right? All different permutations. But on this call, there's like 3 or 4 things that are going to come up. So you ask a sales rep, like, so what do you think is going to come up on this call later today? And the rep starts to think it through, maybe for the first time. As the coach, not the trainer, but the coach, you're trying to get the most out of someone.
Right.
Ask
so you
them,
can say to them,
how are you going to respond to that?
How are you going to respond? If they ask you that, what do you think you're going to say? So that they have some kind of response and not make it up on the fly as often, they feel forced to do.
They might make it up on the fly, but they'll have a knowledgeable foundation to make it up from. It won't be just, pulling it out of their nether regions, but it will be actual, oh yeah, I remember I was just talking about this. It's because of this. And it will be a legitimate answer.
A great sales rep, and every once in a while you happen to capture one of those, right? I'm talking about for a small and medium business owner. You capture a great rep who's just at that point in their career, woman re-entering the sales force, she's spectacular, you get to keep her. You probably won't be able to afford her as soon as because Fortune 500 companies will also come knocking, and you may lose that person, right? Or you have a person that's fresh out of college and he's just fantastic, and you think this guy's going to really go places, and he does. And one of the places that he goes is away from your business.
Right.
So great salespeople, they're going to come along. Most of the people that you're managing are good sales reps. The superstar sales rep, Asaf, you had mentioned that they can kind of make it up. They can anticipate the answer. They can do it on the fly. The great sales reps do that naturally. The good sales rep can definitely benefit from thinking it through in advance because that's not their natural thing.
Right.
They're great in other areas, but that may not be one of them. So one of the objectives of having those coaching sessions is to get the most out of someone, as I said before. That's what coaching is all about. And to help them anticipate that so that they can come up with the answer. Now, some of those, I mentioned you're going to have this great sales rep, maybe for a limited amount of time. When you're trying to set up your processes, and we haven't really talked about that yet, but when you're setting up sales processes, I'll interview the owner of the company. Mm-hmm. What happens in a sales process? And let's go through step by step. And I said on a particular call, there's not an infinite number of things that can happen. There's 3 or 4 things that are going to be under discussion on that call. You can map out that sales process by interviewing the owner. How do you handle this? You can also, maybe the best source of a great process is talking to those superstar salespeople because they do it naturally.
Right.
So what's your process? Now, if you happen to lose that superstar salesperson in a year or 2 years, and God bless them, they're moving on to, you can't afford them anymore, right? So if you happen to lose that person, the practices that person understood about your business do not leave with that person because you've put them into your process.
I love this because if I relate this to the brand, what happens for us in branding is there's the marketing person, somebody really understands the brand, and if they leave, in lots of cases, there's a challenge for most of the rest of the company because they're like, oh no, the person who knew the brand left. I'm like, no, the brand is still here. It
Too much
leave.
of it was in their head. Not enough of it was part of a process.
It's certainly that person contributed a lot, and I'm not taking away from them as a contributor. But what happened, when they leave, I hope that there's something left. And I love the fact that you're kind of cataloging what was the best there.
When we get back, we're going to talk to Kevin more about his sales process at Harbor Sales Management. So Arthur, can you tell me about this Reimagine Brand Bootcamp that we're launching?
Sure. One of the things that we found when working with clients is that especially some of the mid-sized clients, founder, owner, they really want to be very active, very hands-on in what we're doing in the brand. They don't want to just hand it over and say, here, go build a brand for me. What they want to do is help to craft, and be a part of the brand. So what we've decided to do is build the brand building bootcamp in a way that they can do that. And we're doing that in 4 sessions plus a bonus session. So 5 sessions that take them through from building a brand foundation to
talking about the brand message.
Right.
Then we're going to get into
the
visual
visuals.
design.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we're going to end it off with content strategy to help you take all of this information and knowledge and actually put it to use to literally grow your business.
Yeah. And that's the important thing, because it's not just, hey, here's a brand, but it's how do you use that brand actively in your marketing from then on. So those 4 sessions, and then the bonus 5th session where we're going to introduce some of the partners and tools that we ourselves use when we're putting together these brands. I really think it'll be exciting. And we're doing it in cohorts. I really hate that word. I have to think of a better word, but little sessions. So you'll be working with your peers, and we will put that together. We're going to coach people through it. And I think that that's a good way to do it.
Right. We're going to get the brand out of them and help them show the whole world.
Yeah, help them express the brand. Exactly.
Their intended market. So we're going to be launching this soon. If you want to get on the wait list, I urge everybody to go to thebrandbuildingbootcamp.com. Sign up for the wait list. It's the only thing you can do on the website. And stay tuned in your email. We're going to be sending out notices of when we're going to sign people up. People who are on the wait list are going to get a discount. It's not going to be a small discount. It's going to be a great discount. So sign up for the wait list today and stay tuned.
Welcome back. Our guest today is Kevin Barry from Harbor Sales Management. And Kevin, just before our break, you were talking about, the importance of process, especially the importance of capturing some kind of data, some information that might be within a superstar salesperson before they depart. And I also love the fact that you anticipate that people are not going to stick around forever. The owner is, but these salespeople may move on, and as you said, God bless them, they find greener pastures. Tell us a little bit about your process for capturing that information and how you might use that with the rest of the sales team.
Sure. Take me through your sales process. Tell me about a great sale that you made in the last 6 months, one that you bragged to people about for a couple of days afterwards. And they'll take you through it. So, like sales war stories, right? It's really fun. And oh yeah. By the way, what's kind of funny about that is when a salesperson's relating the details of that war story, they're the hero of the epic. And so they're telling I told that guy that he was going to buy from me, when in reality, that sales rep was, thank you very much for your service and then for your business, and we're really grateful to have. So anyway, but there's sales war stories that people can tell. So even a okay or mediocre salesperson, because realistically, you want to have a lot of good salespeople on your team. You're going to be lucky enough to have a few great salespeople, and those are the ones that we crib off of, learn from. And you're going to have some okay salespeople.
Yeah.
And these are all people that are going to be on your staff. There's people that are mistakes that don't stay on your staff long, but basically they're falling into that. And it's a bell curve if you're lucky. So there's more good salespeople than anything else. And you can live with the okay salespeople because they can still do business. They just don't do as much with the prospect as, the good salespeople that you have.
Sure.
So it's important to talk to all three of them. You talk to the great salespeople, and you talk to the manager, and he'll tell you which ones he thinks are the great salespeople. And they'll have process. Like that's why they're great salespeople. They don't have the gift of gab necessarily. They might, but that's irrelevant to being a good salespeople, despite what a lot of non-salespeople think. What they have is the ability to confidently drive a process through to the end. Yeah. That's what they do, and they do it naturally. And they understand that, and they're really impatient with things that waste their time and keep them from getting there. So I want to talk to that person about how did you get through this process, and what are the steps that you took. And again, for a given product or service, there may be on a sales call, you're going to have objections.
Yeah.
There's 30, 40, 50 different objections. So one thing you could try to do with your sales staff is here's all the different things that you can hear, and here's what you should say, in response to it, or how you should be thinking about how to position this to a prospect. 30, 40, 50 objections. Yes, that's a lot for a sales rep to keep track of at any given time, right? That affects their ability to think on their feet because there's so many possibilities for them to offer back. On this sales call, though, first call with someone, there's only so many branches that can come out from each one of those individual encounters. And so that's what we're mapping. And we actually map it out like a flow chart of the possible outcomes from this. And so when you're coaching a rep, talking about where are we with this particular client. Now, one of the tricks that I learned years ago from one of the best bosses I ever worked for, before you go on a call, you want to think about 3 things. What do I want this client to know? What do I want this client to feel? And what do I want this client or prospect to do as a result of today's interaction? So this podcast that I'm talking to you, right?
Sure.
I thought about it before I came here because I do it with every encounter that I have. What do I want people to know? I want people to know that Harbor Sales Management is a fractional sales leadership company.
Sure.
And what that entails, we're discussing that. I want people to feel at the same time like this person has his act together and I could trust them or him with my businesses. And what do I want them to do as a result of this? Maybe they're going to go on my website. That's the best that I could hope for this encounter. On a typical sales call, let's say that it's the first sales call. I want this person to understand the features and benefits of my product. That's what I want them to know. Now, I'm also going to be finding out stuff from them, but what I want them to know about me or about my product is the features and the benefits, right?
Right.
What do I want them to feel? And this is equally important. And before you go on the call, you need to. This needs to be infusing your visit with the prospect. I want them to feel like my company is a reliable company, and that they're going to be dealing with people that are going to have their best interests at heart, or whatever it is. But usually it's a matter of trust that I want to do business with this person. What do I want them to do? It depends on the call.
Right.
If it's the first call, I want them to ask me to come back with a proposal. Right. I want them to ask me. If they don't do that, then the next best thing, I'll make sure that I leave with at least another call in place. So I have a couple of different things. So what do I want the client to know? What do I want them to feel? And what do I want them to do?
Yeah, that's fantastic.
When I'm questioning them at each stage, so on this call, go through those same three things. And the superstar sales reps, they have an idea of that. The good sales reps are not quite as quick on their feet, but they certainly get that. And the okay sales reps don't quite get that.
They don't think about that. I mean, to be honest, it sounds like brand strategy.
It does.
It literally sounds like
we often say in the brand strategy very, very similar things. We talk about the brand promise, and the brand promise is like that. What do you want them to know? What do you want them to do? I'm sorry. Say the three.
So what is is the worst mnemonic in the world? It's like I think of KFC.
Right.
Kentucky Fried Chicken.
No,
except
feel, and do.
Except it's KFD.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you also have to remember that no starts with a K. So it's a terrible mnemonic.
Yeah.
But
feel, and do.
Yeah. No, but what do I want them to know? What do I want them to feel? And what do I want them to do as a result of this interaction? You have this, your concentric rings, right? Like there's the what,
right?
The how and the why, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I love it. I'm going to shift the conversation a little bit. And Kevin, you're one of the first people to work with both Arthur and I on what we're now calling our brand building bootcamp. And I wanted to ask you if you could relate to the audience, what it was like for you, what was the experience like, and, months later, what kind of results have you seen?
The best thing I got out of that experience was having a clear knowledge of what my brand was, and that it can't be a lot of different things to a lot of different people, that it needs to be a thing, and to focus on that and to have that in mind every time I do a presentation. So, real shorthand, for my, what do I do? I don't think I talk to anybody without, letting them know I'm a fractional sales leader, and that's enough for me to be.
Right. You're presenting a clear brand picture for them at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. The notion of, a category of one is, and I am actually, I'm a category of one. There's very few people that do that. I could maybe find more short-term gain. Maybe, I'm also a trainer, and I do. I'm a fractional sales leader, and the kind of interaction that I have with sales reps in my case is coaching more than training, and it's those individual conversations, right? Of what are we going to do on this?
Right, and you've got a really good description of the difference between coaching and training. So in your social media, in your email, whatever in your interactions, you're able to say. Training is, I'm going to pour some knowledge into you. Coaching is, I'm going to draw some knowledge out of you. And I think that's a great way to be, because I often say to people, let's try to avoid saying the word help. When you say, what do you do? Oh, I help companies. Everybody says, I help blank. Like, try not to use that. What do you do? I coach salespeople to become terrific sales leaders. Okay, that's great. Yeah. And then tell me the difference between coach and train, and you get to do a description there.
Before we leave on, I really want to I want to spend a little more time on what you guys did, because it was excellent. I hope I haven't said at any point in this, when I talk about what I do for my clients, I hope I didn't, because I learned that from you guys. Like, don't use that word. Like, I'm help. That's not. What's the action that you take,
right,
to drive this business forward? So that was extremely helpful.
Yeah.
For me to learn that from you. The other thing is how well you listened to me, and I would say something barely intelligible, and you would calculate it and spit back to me something that sounded reasonably brilliant, And so I get to say those things now. So I think the thing that you guys do best is listen, which frankly, as a person that leads sales teams,
that's high praise from you. I appreciate that. We say we like to say we listen between the lines, because it's often, I hear where you're going with something. Let me see if I can help you get there. And that's what I mean by listen between the lines, because I've listened to people say what they do as a managed service provider. And then I've said, what I really think I've heard you say is that you are the extended IT team that works at a strategic level to help figure out where technology belongs in this company. And they're like, yeah. I said, I didn't hear you say anything about what is traditional managed services like break fix or something like that. And they're like, yeah. And so why call yourself a managed service provider? Or worse, why did you come in and say, I'm an MSP, as if I should know what that means? And that's often the problem. They go, I didn't realize that the person I was talking to didn't know. And that, I think, when you have to describe it, I'm a fractional sales leader, and what you do, what you provide, give somebody that full answer for that.
Right. So, Kevin, normally I ask all of our guests to give us a spicy question, right? Well, what's your spiciest brand story? But a little birdie told me that you've got some golden pipes and love Hamilton. So we would love for you to be the first singing guest on our show and give our audience a little bit of a jingle.
Well, I'd like to say, I didn't know you were going to do that, but you did tell me that, but only 20 minutes ago. So I went to Hamilton College, upstate New York, and it was Alexander Hamilton never went there, but his statue's on campus, and the guy who founded the college in 1792 loved Alexander Hamilton. So I have a natural affinity for Hamilton. I played in a rock band at college when I was there, and we played at a reunion last year, and we played the songs that were popular on campus when we were there.
Yeah.
Which means we are now an oldies band.
Classics band or classics band.
Yeah. So we're so one of those songs was "God Save the Queen" by the Sex Pistols, but we decided to combine it with something from Hamilton, the show, and so I put on a crown and I sang this song. You say the price of my love's not a price that you're willing to pay. You cry in your tea, which you hurl in the sea when you see me go by. Why so sad? Remember we made an arrangement when you went away. Now you're making me mad. Remember, despite our estrangement, I'm your man. You'll be back. Soon you'll see, you'll remember you belong to me. You'll be back, time will tell. You'll remember that I served you well. Oceans rise, empires fall. We have been with each other through it all. And when push comes to shove, I will send a fully armed battalion to remind you of my love. Ya da 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 da. Everybody. Ya da 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 da.
That was great. That was great. Well, we hope that you'll be back, and we'll have you as a guest another time. And I want to have you let everyone in our audience know how to connect with you. So what's the best way to find you, Kevin?
My website, harborsalesmgt.com, harborsalesmanagement.com, or on LinkedIn.
On LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And we'll put that in the liner notes for the podcast. And I want to thank everyone for joining us here on the Brandtelling Podcast. And if you know somebody that you think would make a great guest for the podcast, send us a note at podcast@brandtelling.com. And go ahead and nominate yourself if you think you'd be a good guest. We do this locally here. We are recording today here at Studio 31 at the Harbor Fields Library in Greenlawn. It's a fantastic studio. If you're local, I recommend connecting with them to use this podcast facility. But we also do remote podcasting. We use a tool called Riverside FM to allow us to do a remote podcast. So again, closing for the podcast, this is Arthur Germain.
And this is the brand chef, Asaf Bachman, signing off. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for the Brandtelling Podcast. If you have a story idea or would like to be a guest on the podcast, please send us an email at podcast@brandtelling.com.